Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Hi, welcome to Rooted and Rising. Dr. Cheri here with my wonderful co-host, Ellice Boone. I have a question for you. If you had a moment so still, so honest, that could reshape the way you are or how you see the world, would you take it? This is the question I want us to explore today as we contemplate contemplation. Purposeful contemplation is so key in our growth and our progress, especially when we deal with all healings, but psychedelics especially. So I want you to think about that question as we navigate through our own experiences today in exploring what is purposeful contemplation.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Cheri. And this subject, the subject matter for this podcast kind of came up organically in our conversations with each other about what integration is. And you had mentioned the word contemplation. And I thought immediately, wow, that's something we just don't do much of anymore in our society. So contemplation is such a beautiful word, and I'm excited to dive more into this today with you. And welcome to Rooted and Rising. As you may know, if you've seen the show before, this is a show where we kind of talk a little bit about all of the different healing modalities and how to find ways to become your own self-healer. There are so many tools out there to get through the layers of all of the societal, pressures and things that have formed us into the person that we are, to become more of the truest version, more authentic version of ourselves. And so we're here to share insights and tools and things we've learned from our own experience and from client experiences that we've seen can truly work to get you to that truest version of you. So thanks for watching. And I think before we dive in, if I can go into a little guided practice to get us all more present, that would be
Great.
wonderful. All right. So if you are in a quiet, private place, that is most preferable. Just take a moment. And if you need a moment, just go ahead and pause the recording and take a minute to find a space where you won't be interrupted. Taking my first deep breath of the day. And I invite you to do the same if it feels comfortable for you, to just take a moment, maybe place the hand over the chest here, over the heart space. And if it feels good to close your eyes, go ahead and do that. Taking a deep breath in through the nose and let your exhale come out through the mouth. And again, a deep inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Noticing the body sort of sinking into stillness. Noticing how you are supported by the ground beneath you, by the chair that you're sitting on, or the earth that you're resting your body on. Letting your breath fall to a natural rhythm without trying to control it, just noticing it. Noticing the in-breath and noticing the out-breath. Now taking a moment here to bring your awareness to that heart center. If your hand still rests here, feeling the warmth of your palm on your chest. Imagining beneath the palm what lies below. Not just the heart that beats and keeps this body alive, but also the heart that is the symbol for all emotion. Rest your awareness here in that quiet place. And notice if there's anything that wants to surface in this moment. Maybe ask yourself the question, what wants to be seen or heard right now? Now, don't force an answer here. Just allow yourself to be in the quiet and the stillness. Continue letting your breath flow naturally and be here with whatever arises. That could be a sensation, it could be an emotion, it could just be silence. All things are welcome here. And now I invite you to express to yourself, I honor what is here. I trust what is unfolding. Breathing into that statement within. And perhaps adding, I accept all parts of myself in this moment. And again, breathing into that statement, allowing those words to settle into the body. Allowing the body to feel heavy or light, soft, open, constricted, whatever it is the body feels in this moment, just taking note and accepting that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Now encouraging one more deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Take as long as you need here to relax and just feel whatever you feel in the body. And when it feels right for you, come back into the space, thanking yourself for taking just a few moments to tune into you and to give yourself that little bit of self-care today.
Wow. Thank you, Lise. That was beautiful. It was, I needed that today. So thank you. That was just wonderful. And I hope everyone felt just a bit of stillness and that little bit of inkling of truth coming up, that what they need to express today or experience today. And today I want it to be an experience. We want it to be an experience. You know, as I have delved into deeper and deeper work through my holistic integral therapy and then led into the psychedelic healing, why this is so pertinent is that I've learned and I've experienced how magical and imperative integration is. and to be able to experience the healing, not just to know it, not just to understand, not to just feel better, but growth and progression really occurs when we experience shifts and changes and gain insight. And it's like tapping into that inner knowing. And so what cracked that open for me more than anything was a psychedelic healing world, because people would come up out of their experience, and it's like a door flung open to their soul. And I found that with myself. And then it can sometimes it can be just wonderful and joyful, and sometimes it can be so much. And then a lot of times when it's wonderful and joyful, that days down, the days later, it becomes so much, because we are complex. And the complexity is wonderful if we are willing to dive in and the perplexity of it, to be able to weave through what is there and discover, on a conscious level, what we carry around. And then we have better mastery and choice on how we want to show up in this world. And so that's kind of the basis of what really brought me into this, and why I think it's so important to understand contemplation, because who's the real healer? We're our own healer. And how many years can you go to therapy and get information and get guidance and hope to be healed and still walk out and not discover that you're your own healer and the answers are in there? It's the key is knowing how to tap into those answers. And so and one world I think I overlook a lot is hypnotherapy is so magical. And so it doesn't always have to be psychedelic. But for me, I found it, even though I've been trained in hypnotherapy, I'm very highly suggestible. I love it. The psychedelics kind of took me to a deeper level of understanding key components of contemplation that I couldn't understand before. And that could also be my years of experience, but I think it was the medicine that just kind of cracked it open. And then I delved into my own skills and abilities. And that's what we want to convey. We want you to understand how magical and intelligent you really are.
Yes. Oh, so many gems of wisdom in what you just shared. I think one thing I wanted to point out is that oftentimes we think that after the experience, we need to quick make all these changes in our lives, do. And actually, what we're talking about here, one of the key components to integration is to stop all the doing and just listen, just be. And that's can be really challenging for people in general. And in this day and age, with the amounts and levels of stimulation that we have constantly all around us, it's hard to pause. It's hard to be still. It's hard to be quiet. And yet, those are the really, really important moments where we can go deeper into our experience to really contemplate and allow things within us to unravel and really show us a clear picture of what it is we experienced and the importance of it. And then allow that to sort of sink into our bodies. Like you said, it's an experience that we feel in our bodies. So, it's fascinating. I think we have to head to a break, but after that, I'd love to come back and dive in a little bit deeper once we get back.
Sounds wonderful. See you in a moment.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, and welcome back. You are watching or listening to Rooted and Rising. I'm Ellice Boone, and I'm here with Dr. Cheri. So, Dr. Cheri, before the break, we were just kind of going into contemplation and what important role that plays in integration. And I had mentioned that it's something that is more about stillness and just being with yourself and allowing these thoughts and insights to arise within you. And how hard that can be in our culture with so much stimulation and media going on all around us 24/7. But I also wanted to say on the other side of this coin, it's not just stillness in like a passive way of just doing nothing, but the stillness itself is intentional. And so it's something that's more alive. So it's like an active stillness, if that makes sense. You're not being passive about it. You're allowing your thoughts to unfold and perhaps taking a piece of information from your experience or something that inspired you in life and contemplating it, sitting with it, meditating on it, sort of chewing it up so that it becomes more digestible. And the thought that came to my mind on that line is if we just swallowed our food whole, it would be really hard to digest. So we have to sit there and we have to take time to chew our food and break it down, all the fibers and the pieces. And that way, when we do swallow and ingest that food, we get all those nutrients and it's easy to digest. And so, in this way, psychedelic or any type of transformative experiences, they really need time to be broken down in our system. And they need time to be absorbed fully into our bodies. So, contemplation just became such a powerful word to both of us, you and I, in our conversation, that this is something that needs to be talked about. This is a key part to integration that I think is often overlooked instead of just what many people think, go, 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 do, do, do. I'm going to change all these things about my life and get myself on track. And it's all about the doing. This is something that becomes about the feeling, the being, the experience of it. So just wanted to bring up that point as well.
No, I think that's great. And I think, the another aspect of the active is we have to choose to do this, and with all the many distractions and other choices we have that can create dopamine pops, which are fun, and they're engaging and they can soothe us, in the moment, but they can also just take us away from taking command of our life and making choices about personal growth and gaining insight and the magical arena of curiosity and imagination. And so there are so many layers to this that I could get really excited about. And what comes to my mind is, I guess, where the psychedelic healing comes in is when we go through this experience and in one of these journeys, and our brain goes through the neuroplasticity And I like to, and I think I've said in other podcasts, I like to refer to it as like the baby brain. Our baby brain, babies come in, and our brains are very soft and pliable and curious and absorbing everything, wanting to learn everything without any preconceived ideas or beliefs. And so when we come out of a journey, we get to, we're in that state, and we can dive into contemplation during that time, tap into that inner healer, and realize the layers and depths of it. It is active, it is work, but happy work, not laborious work, because it's curious and imaginative, and you know, we need to take the time to allow the slow evolution to happen. We're also in a really quick fix world. We instant. We're hungry, we drive through McDonald's, and we don't have to go and, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I got to sharpen a stick. Oh, I got to go hunting. Oh, I got to bring the animal back. Oh, I got to, and then 8 hours later, after we did the fire and everything, we may eat. And so all that, all those steps is contemplation. And we are taking, we're learning something and using skills that we don't use when we just drive into McDonald's and eat. And so, and nutrition, you were nourishing the soul in ways that, sorry, McDonald's, fast food can't really nourish us with. And so I think thinking of it that way, and that if we sit down and we're like, okay, I'm going to choose to go into this, I'm going to make time for timelessness. I'm going to make time to experience that inner world where there is no space and no time, like the dream world where the baby brain is, and just see what percolates and what comes up.
Mhm. Yeah, so powerful. Taking that time for stillness. I mean, it's a fast food world on all fronts. It's a fast food world with media, with food, and you're right. So it's just another example what you're speaking to of how we've sort of removed all slowness out of life. And the slowness is kind of the sweet spot. It's the spot where we really get to feel what is happening around us. I mean, imagine when we're like eating that food, when you're eating it unconsciously and fast, you're not really tasting anything. You could be eating the nicest food in the world, but if you just scarf it down, you don't really get to savor and enjoy it and taste all the flavors and, ooh, what were the spices and what are the textures and how does this feel as I'm eating it? And what does it smell like? You're just eating to, sort of satiate that feeling of hunger. Yet you don't experience the food unless you pause and you notice it. And so that's what this is as well. The contemplation, the pause, that sacred pause of just taking a moment to savor a thought, to feel an experience. It makes all the difference in the world. And there was something that I had written down or read when we were writing up this podcast, which was that the psychedelic state, it kind of brings us to that sacred pause in a lot of ways, helps us to observe more acutely the things that are around us. And yet, once we really learn how to do that and start practicing it in our lives, we're actually able to access that without psychedelics, without hypnotherapy. And
For
that's
sure.
what's really cool. And so this is kind of like an encouragement for our listeners out there that this isn't something that's so far off and you even need psychedelics for. This is something that you can start practicing in your everyday life to sort of bring in this pause, this noticing, like we even did in our little meditation practice right before, noticing what our body sensations feel like, noticing what's coming up in the well of our emotions inside, what wants to be heard. Just that simple question to ourselves and taking 2 minutes to listen can actually shift our whole perspective and get us more in tune with what's going on within us. So yeah, it's amazing what we can do with just a little bit of time and stillness and slowness.
I think that's great. And I think that, um, one of the things here is when we take time to, you know, quiet down, meditate, and begin the contemplation process. We also are, come to face our personalities and our different stages of growth, and kind of what tools work for us. And some people are like natural yogis. They can sit down and they can meditate and they can go deep and have that insight. And some can't so easily. And I discovered after, being a therapist for, back then it was like 35 years. So I'm going on 40, but it was, and the hypnotherapy and being so amenable to hypnotherapy and all the other tools that I use, that it wasn't until I, came out of my ketamine assisted therapy that I experienced life without anxiety.
Mm.
I don't It wasn't this outer anxiety. I get anxious and I can get like excited about things. And it was different. It was this covert anxiety, probably deep in my personality. And that was a barrier that didn't allow me to go deeper.
Mm.
And I didn't know it until I was there. And
Mhm.
so and we can get there when we create a ritual and a practice of contemplation, of, meditation. We can get there with binary music that if we're audio, we can kind of go in that place. We can get there with movement like yoga. We can get there in so many ways. But for me and my personality and probably my stage of life, it was like I felt like, oh my gosh, a concrete wall just got broken through, and
Oh.
that I didn't even know I had. And
Mhm.
because all my strong coping skills throughout life worked for me, but they also were part of that concrete. And so
Mm.
I had to dismantle myself.
Mm.
And then the startling thing is, as I've learned to contemplate in a deeper and deeper level, I'm dismantling. I can feel myself just shrinking as I talk about more and more of what I thought was who I was,
Mm.
and also excited about the complexity of who I am. And so this is where I just say that because contemplation can be so simple and beautiful and so complex and beautiful. And because the real key is we learn just so how beautiful we are
Mm.
in our makeups and being
Mhm.
human. And I think we lose that day to day remembrance that what joy it is to be human.
Mhm. Yeah, such a joy. I really appreciate you sharing your personal experience too, because I think it really shows the listeners that as a therapist for almost 40 years, here you are still dismantling parts of yourself to get down to the root of the truest version of you. And not to say that in a way that might scare people like, oh, it never ends. But yeah, it never ends, guys. We are always um, in a place where we have opportunity to grow. We are always going to be in a place where we have opportunity to transform and become a new version of ourselves. And that can be looked at, as maybe a hard thing, or it can be looked at as what an incredible privilege to constantly be able to transform and become a better version of us until the day we die. We have that opportunity. And so it's a beautiful thing as humans that we have that. And it's also beautiful to see someone doing this after so many years of working with other people and working on yourself, that you are at a place of still saying, yeah, I want to be even better. I want to know myself even deeper. I want to be a more authentic version of who I am and break down those walls that I didn't even realize were there. That is incredible and beautiful to see and witness. When I hear you talking, it's inspiring to me to hear that. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you. That's really sweet. And I just, it's just if our fundamental beliefs play into this, and it really is, I feel like we have eternity to learn. How can we not always want to progress and learn and grow? And so I know we're about to meet our sponsor again. So why don't we pick this up afterwards, and we'll see you in a moment. Thank you.
Master of words, powerful player, What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising with myself, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Before we left, we were talking a little bit about my experience, and I want to emphasize that, it's really about knowing thyself. And my experience, I figured out by knowing myself and all my conditional development and my stage of life that how what I was uncovering through starting small and getting some insight to contemplation, to being aware of the layers and how I personally can weave through them. And at the same time, contemplation to get there is a daily practice. And this is where I was talking. It could be listening to the binary music. It could be walking in nature. It could be taking a bubble bath. It's a lot of different ways where we can take the moment of stillness, as Elise talks so well about, and just and actively choosing to be still and listen to that inner intelligence that I find that's behind my heart, and enjoy with the curiosity and the imagination. I really do believe that sometimes starting small is better. Less is better than more. And so taking those little steps forward can create such great realization that you may just want to stay in the little steps forward for quite a while, because realizations are so big or enjoyable or enticing or fun. Because I really also think at the end of the day, men are that they might have joy. We need to have a joyous life. And so all these tools, including purposeful contemplation, is to be joyful. And and I said, like, about becoming human, be joyful being human. And that is really what I find this all about.
Yeah, I love that, Cheri. That's beautiful. Oh, I had a thought and then it just like disappeared out of my mind. Oh, I think I was going to talk about how easy it is to kind of get fast paced in everything that we do. And it brought me back to when I was taking my certification program in the psychedelic integration training that I did for a year and a half. And in that program, I remember feeling my like appetite for information was insatiable. And I remember just asking the teacher constantly, like, well, I need more, and I need tools, and I need a structure for people, and and it's funny to look back at that version of me and then the version of me now, 5 years later. And I've finally realized that this integration process was not about all the tools that you could have and all the things I could shove in my clients' faces to tell them to do. It was actually about just being present with them and realizing that their integration is very individual, slow, and takes time. And it can be this beautiful, fun, playful process that you're describing. It can bring us a lot of joy. It doesn't always have to be just going through the muck and challenge and difficulty, or forcing ourselves into, you know, doing these practices that feel hard. It can be things that feel easy and accessible to us. One of my things that I learned, not from that school, but actually from the Artist's Way book, was doing morning pages. And that's something that has stuck with me, writing, journaling every day that I can, and it feels accessible to me. But making that a priority has been a massive thing in my life for understanding emotions, getting in touch with my deeper self, and contemplating. So writing is such a beautiful form of contemplation, and then rereading what you wrote to really understand what was going on in your mind, and feel what's happening within you. So yeah, just was thinking how funny it was that at some point when I was going through all this schooling, thinking, well, this is the way, and it has to be all these things we have to do, and we have to have all these tools, and I need more. And now it's like I'm unlearning all of that for myself and coming back to, oh, it's the simplest of things. It's the pause. It's the awareness in a given moment, drinking your tea in the morning and just being aware of each sip, saying a prayer, being meditative. These are the ways that insights are able to like really grow and flourish within us. And all of the things are beautiful tools, but we don't need all the tools. We don't need all the things. We just need us. That's it. So simple.
No, I love that. I love that. And it brings, thank you for sharing that, because I think that, what we would, learning is such a good thing to do, right? And so, like you said, then I had to like step back and unlearn some of my coping mechanisms about learning. And
Mhm.
because contemplation is one of the greatest learning tools that we have. And so you learn, is I can tell you learned so much in that year and a half, so I appreciate you sharing that and more. And the engaging in the simple tools like journaling, I think that was probably my biggest, between prayer and journaling, that was my biggest contemplation tools I used through my growing years. And then it was then some unlearning I had to do was when I did my dissertation for hypnotherapy. And my reader, I'm writing like crazy. And again, where my tools are coming from, and I'm thinking I'm right on target. And then he's the one that said, there's a difference between petitioning and contemplation. And at that time, I had no idea, and so I was just learning about hypnotherapy. And that my dissertation, I should have well been ingrained in it, but there was a blind spot for me, of what was happening to me. I could go under, and then what was happening to me, I still didn't understand, because my coping mechanism do was so ingrained. And so that really threw me off and took me into a deep dive on understanding, really for myself, the difference. And it's not so different than what you're saying. It was, doing seemed to be where I was gaining information and insight, and I could understand, and you do all those things. But the
Mhm.
wisdom for ourselves, how we apply it to ourselves, comes through the contemplation.
Mhm.
And we won't get that wisdom if we don't do the contemplation. My belief, someone can, trump that on me, but my belief is it's not possible to gain the wisdom that we need to, how to apply it within ourselves, and then how to gift ourselves to this world, and to especially those that we love. And and then that's our enemy too, because we should love our enemy, right? How do we give ourselves to this world without that contemplation?
Mhm. Yeah. When you were speaking there, I thought of the example I said to you on the phone, which was, I feel as a culture in general, we're all these like really overfilled sponges. We just absorb so much information all the time. And again, it's not necessarily the best information or quality information, it's just a lot of it. And so we're so overfilled, we're so saturated that we actually can't absorb much. And everything coming in sort of bounces off of us. And I've noticed for myself when I just really take a break from media, from even things that I love, which I love to read. I love taking in new information and learning things, and that's wonderful. But sometimes I'm oversaturated and I need time to like really wring out that sponge with nothing coming in, no incoming. And I'm able to, once I'm all wrung out, to then really absorb more intentionally the things I want to. And so sometimes it's just about taking breaks from listening to the podcast, watching the news, reading and scrolling on Instagram, taking a break from all of that, taking a little cleanse and allowing yourself to just sort of settle into who you are. And that in itself will free up so much time. If you take one of those things on that list and just say, oh, today I'm not going to look on Instagram, or today I'm not going to watch the news, maybe that would free up an hour or two of your time. What are you going to do with that? You can just exist and be in your life. Take that drive and look out the window. Don't turn on the podcast. Just sit there and contemplate something. Just be with yourself. And that is actually really powerful. So, again, another example of how simple it is to be in like a sacred space with yourself. I just looked up the word sacred actually, and I'll throw this in there too, because I thought this was really cool. But it was talking about sacred meaning anything that has something out of the ordinary, something reverent. And we don't take enough time in our lives to make things reverent, to give them the space. But a leaf falling from a tree, dewdrops on the ground, on a patch of moss, these things are sacred and reverent and beautiful. The everyday can become extraordinary when you take some time to like really sit and absorb it and watch it and just see all the beauty in that moment. So I feel that those things are around all of us at any given time. And we can really find a lot of contemplation, pause, reverence in nature, is where I find a lot of that for myself. And it's a beautiful thing to experience going out and not having a phone, not having anyone around you, not playing music, just listening, smelling, seeing all the beauty that surrounds us. And that can be a very beautiful meditative experience as well. So that's my little tip for our listeners. My favorite thing to do to drop in.
No, I love that. And I love what you said, take the time. And I think that what remind me of is what I've experienced too. And is I really do that, believe that time folds. And when we
Mm.
carve out a time to contemplate, we realize even when we go back to real life, there's so much time. Like we didn't lose any time. In fact, and so contemplation like really doesn't take time away from us, doesn't rob us. If you take a moment and breathe and see that, watch that leaf float from the top of the tree down to the ground and lie on the ground, that 2 minutes is like it just added 4 minutes, to your life, and you can't understand that, and that's another thing. Like it goes back to I might not understand what life is out without covert anxiety until it was gone. You won't know it until you experience it, and but I guarantee you, you'll experience it, and then we kind of, if we miss a day of contemplation or a moment, we decide to stay and watch that TV show besides versus going outside and taking a fresh breath of air. Um, then we feel the void and we miss it, and now the day seems short. Like, oh, I missed it, and so it's really fascinating how our perception shifts, and how
Mhm.
and part of the this is where I think the contemplation is expansive, and this is
Mm.
where I like about all the work that we do, and whether it's a quiet meditation, a quiet prayer, a full psychedelic journey, is we're expanding.
Mhm.
We're expanding, and one, and Einstein I think said, once a mind expands, it can't contract. So true,
Mm.
so true. And so this is expanding our joy, our love, and our wisdom. as just a few things so that we can live our true, authentic self. And so I'd like to weave on how to make this our everyday experience. And let's do that. I think we have a sponsor to share with. And so we'll be right back.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising, again with Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Love this topic, purposeful contemplation. And, we've talked about a lot of things, and I really want to go back and talk about how sometimes less is more, take one step at a time. Really the philosophy of root, rebound, and rise applies here. And the goal is to weave contemplation in our everyday life. And I have a morning ritual that I do, and it keeps expanding. Sometimes it varies, but I like to include I like to include my mind, body, and spirit as much as I can. So sometimes there is you know movement, some yoga movements to get my body circulating, and then there is I'm not real musical. I wish I was, but I'm not very, but what I like is the vibrations. And I've learned through my Kundalini yoga, I got really tied into my gong, and I will definitely play some of my gong to feel the vibrations run through my body. And it kind of activates and calms my body, but it wakes my body up and it brings me into my body. And I have some singing bowls and some chimes that if I'm in the mood, and then I do some reading and of a variety of things. Usually to I like the witness of three, so I will read for me my scriptures. I have some intuitive cards. I have some another book that a couple of books I refer to, and inevitably I will feel inclined to open a page up, or I'll already have a thought. I'll look at something up, and all three witness back to me the information I was seeking, and that gives me a relationship with my intuition and my inspiration, which is really important for me. I feel like it activates my third eye and my seventh chakra and my crown, and I like that. That really gets me going for my day. And so that's one thing. If I can do a daily practice of something like that, it really kicks my day off well in a curiosity and open way for especially for me working with other people and their energies. I want to make sure I don't get in the way of them expressing. And then I do on my drive to work. I don't turn the radio on. I drive in silence. I've done that for years, and just I notice the trees. I know the shade on the street. I know I notice the water on the if it's rained, the smell in the air, and that's really important to me to get me not rushing, because sometimes I can just rush, and if I rush, I'll inevitably go make a wrong turn, go the wrong direction, because I'm direction challenged anyway. So I can tell when I'm out of sync in that way. So those are some of the ways that and then in break throughout the day, I'll take little breaks and I'll take a nice breath, or I'll sometimes I'll say a prayer, or sometimes I'll turn on some music that is binary kind of music. I do all that purposely to take me back there. And it doesn't take much. It takes 60 seconds. And so, like a fresh air, or go outside and stand on the ground. There's so many things that we do. I want us to interweave this in a simple way in our everyday life.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheri. I love your personal examples of what you do. It's beautiful to hear that. I'll share some of mine. And, we're in different seasons in our lives. I have a little one at home. And so there's different mornings, all depending on her. But it is really great because for a long time I had it's just like a hard line for myself. I have to do this, and I have to do an hour of meditation. And so I set myself up for failure because I didn't have that kind of time or capacity in that moment in my life.
Very
And so
good.
now I've softened a lot in that realm and realized that I can access 2, 3 minutes in little moments throughout the day, for me, makes a world of difference. So I took away the pressure of this massive morning practice for myself and consolidated it. And guess what? It's just what you said. As soon as I realized how good it was to be in the routine of doing that, when I don't do it, I notice a difference. And I'm missing something. There's a void there, and I want to do it. I have this like beautiful desire, this craving to care for myself in that way, to pause, to do journaling. And oftentimes I'll do like 10 minutes in the morning. It's pretty regular for me. And that's something that I come back to constantly as an anchor in my life. And I loved everything you mentioned. For me, also bare feet on the ground, face feeling the sunshine, just soaking in the sunshine. Those ways really ground me, and just taking a walk outside, whatever the weather is, but just being out in the elements, taking the dogs for a walk around, it really just gets me back into my body and makes me more present. So all beautiful things. I know we want to share a couple journal prompts. We like to leave our listeners with some prompts that can help you if you just want a little encouragement with your writing, or sort of a jumping off place. And we really encourage you to do the writing as free writing, which means if you can, even set a timer, whatever doesn't feel intimidating to you, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, go for 10 minutes. You can stretch it out as you go, but just put the pen to paper and don't bring it up until that timer's off. And this really helps you access a different portion of the brain, allows that sort of inner dialogue to come out that you may not be getting from just thinking. So another form of contemplation. Our journal prompts for this week are: where in my life am I being invited to pause and listen more deeply? Another here could be: what wisdom emerges when I stop trying to figure it out and just feel? And the last one: how can I create a daily ritual of contemplation to integrate my growth? I'm going to use this one because I think that's a beautiful thing. So I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed our show. Thank you for being here. Anything else you want to say, Dr. Cheri?
No, I just think that was beautiful. And I really encourage for this segment that you really maybe consider putting pen to paper and write about it and start getting familiar with your voice.
I love that. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay rooted
and keep rising.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern.